I went through the book. I really didn't know what to expect because I didn't know about Chiron to begin with. I knew about astrology. I'm a Virgo. I knew these tendencies I had through it. I believed in it. But even before we go into the Chiron effect, which I found amazing to learn about as a newbie to that, could you tell us a little bit about your story and what led you into writing this book?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I have been for over 22 years. And I came to that awareness and love for helping people understand themselves better when I was very young. At the age of 5, my parents found a note I scribbled that said, I want to be a psychiatrist. And I've always been curious about how the mind works and knowing that somehow our mind is key to unlocking our lives and the lives that we really want to live versus what we were told, often from a good place. Yeah. Parents wanting to protect us, loved ones wanting to buffer us from disappointment, teachers even trying to guide and direct us. And over the years, as I look back, a part of me always knew there's just something more that I can be and do and have. And it's sent me down really being a seeker of different philosophical, psychological, and spiritual teachings and texts and ways of being. And that all came together in my book, The Chiron Effect, Healing Our Core Wounds Through Astrology, Empathy, and Self-Forgiveness, where I really synthesize those different modalities and traditions, along with taking personal responsibility, because it really starts and ends with us.
Mm-hmm. I love the comprehensiveness of it as well in the book, because you do hit on a lot of things aside from responsibility, vulnerability of everyone, really forgiving yourself. There's a lot in it that's transformative. But before we even jump into all of those pieces, which are very, very important, let's dive into what exactly is Chiron. What is this effect? What are we talking about here? Because most of us know there are 12 signs. But there is something else in astrology within this Chiron that is very important. So tell us why we should care about it.
Absolutely. Casper, Chiron has been written about and spoken about in so many different wisdom traditions. Greek mythology speaks of Chiron as the centaur. He was the founding father of the medical arts, the healing arts, pharmacy, botany. And today, when we go to the doctor and there is the staff of medicine with the 2 snakes woven together, that is the staff of Asclepius that Chiron the centaur gave to him as his teacher. So we see Chiron referenced literally everywhere in medicine, not knowing. And besides in Greek mythology, Carl Jung wrote about Chiron as the wounded healer archetype in our collective unconscious. Sigmund Freud, who coined the repetition compulsion in 1914, which speaks to we're hardwired to heal. We're hardwired as the body starts to repair itself. When you have a cut, a broken bone, so does our mind. And this repetition compulsion speaks to we cycle through patterns of relationships, of our routine, as we call it. And I see us as little mini solar systems, Casper. We orbit and frequent people, places, and things. We're our own little planet. Others orbit and frequent us. And that comes from Chiron in the solar system. Chiron in astronomy was discovered around 1974. And it's a minor planet and comet that's between Saturn and Uranus. It was the first of the Centaur class, again, referencing Chiron the Centaur in astronomy. And it speaks to an area of vulnerability in astrology. Chiron speaks to where we feel vulnerable and we tend to hide or edit that about ourselves. We tend to minimize, say that we might be really successful outwardly, but internally we feel like we're never good enough. And we're constantly working and achieving, receiving awards, financial gain, but you never feel good enough. And we see this a lot when successful people kill themselves, that they never somehow would let in their success. And this is what Chiron really nails, this area of vulnerability up to and including core wounding. things like sexual abuse and trauma that leave us really disconnected, our minds and bodies. And it took almost 4 years for me to really synthesize all this that I'm speaking to, like what Chiron really is about. And I know even for myself, the astrological piece was kind of like, astrology, what's up with that? And when I delved more into astrology, understanding it to be a symbolic language, and we wrote our own astrology. I'm a really big believer, and we wrote the lives that we are living in a realm. I see timelines as happening simultaneously versus past, present, and future lives. It's just in our human body, we can't conceive that. We're so linear. And I see you nodding your head. Yet, really, there are realms where everything is happening simultaneously. And our astrology is what we wrote as the lessons and the things we wanted to learn in order to be whole, in order to give, to be our best selves, and understanding your core wounding, understanding where you feel vulnerable and healing that instead of hiding from it is a key to really being your happiest self. And, really losing that competitiveness, comparing ourselves to others, and really learning to love exactly who we are.